Welcome to the Futures Lab. So this week we start to put our questions into our quiz game show project. So in Scratch we are going to use something called lists to keep all of this information. Now lists are kind of like variables. If you've used a variable before, you know that a variable is basically like a container that holds one piece of information inside it. So if you've used a score in a game before, or like points in a game, that's basically a number that changes, right? You start off with 0, and then in your game you get points and the number goes up. It changes, it gets bigger. And when you start a new game, it goes back to 0, and you've got to try and make it go bigger again. So a variable can contain a number that changes. It could also contain words and other types of information as well. And a list is basically just a list of variables. Makes sense, right? So let's make our first list. So to do that, we're going to do this coding inside the Gameshow host. We're going to go to the variables section, the dark orange one on the left, and you'll notice there's a button that says make a list. Click on that one now. We're going to call this first list questions. And now what you'll notice is two things. We have a bunch of really dark orange codes that have just appeared on the left side of the screen here. And we've got our list here on the right side of the screen, where our game show game is. And you can even change the size of the box so you can see more or less of the list. So we're going to make some more lists. We're going to click on make a list, and we are going to call the next one answer 1. Now if you remember, the way that this game show is going to work is it's going to be multiple choice questions. So it's going to be the host is going to ask a question, and then Pico and Nano are both going to give you a possible answer, and you have to click on the correct answer. So we're going to click on make a list again and make one called answer 2. And then we're going to click on make a list again, and we're going to call this one real answer. We can even call it real answers. So we've now got 4 lists. We've got one that's called answer 1, and what that means is it's like one of the possible answers for the question, one of the options. And we've got answer 1 and we've got answer 2. So you can spend a bit of time like me just dragging these boxes so that they're a bit easier to see. When the game starts, these boxes aren't going to be visible with the lists, but it's important to see what's inside them because we're going to start adding things to them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to My Blocks, the pink category on the left. We've already done one of these, but we're going to make some more. We're going to click on Make a Block. The first one is going to be called Load Answer 1. Press OK, and just drag that define load answer 1 to like the top of the screen for now. Now click on Make a Block again. We're going to call the next one load answer 2, and just drag that up to be with load answer 1. And then we're going to make another My Block. We're going to call this one load questions. And then we're going to click again last time and say load real answers. Okay, now I'm going to drag this over here. So now I want you to look for the when green flag clicked. I want you to just make a bit of space underneath that, and on the left side of the screen you'll find load answer 1, drag that in and put it in above explain the game. Get load answer 2 and put that in above explain the game. Get load questions and put that in above explain the game. and load real answers and put that there. So what's going to happen when the game starts, it switches the costume and then it loads answers 1, answers 2, questions, and real answers. So what are those going to do? What are those my blocks going to do? Well, we're going to do that now. So as long as you have this here, you're good to go to the next bit. I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit here. Now spread out these define load questions, define load answer 1, define load answer 2, and define load real answers. So when I say load, what it's going to do is it's going to, when a game says loading, it's getting all the information that you need. It says loading, and then when it's finished, it's done. And this will happen at the beginning of the game, and it will happen very fast. There'll be no loading screen. But what this is going to do is it's going to get all of the questions that you want and all of the answers and all of the real answers and fill in these lists. So let's start off by putting in what a question should look like. So let's go to variables, the orange category, and underneath define load questions, I want you to look for add thing to answer 1. Drag that out and put it underneath define load questions. Click on that white triangle next to where it says answer 1 and select questions. So this is going to add an item, a thing, to our list of questions. So this is going to be our first question. So you can make your questions about anything that you like. I'm just going to make it about Spider-Man because I like Spider-Man. So what is Spider-Man's real name? There we go. Now you can see this has gotten a bit long, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit and move that there so there's enough space. So now underneath define load questions, we've got add what is Spider-Man's real name to questions. Okay, and I'm going to put in, so now we need to put in 2 possible answers to that question, one which is right and one which is wrong. So drag in add thing to answer 1 and put that underneath define load answer 1. So this is one of the possible answers. So I'm going to say Clark Kent. So if you like comic books and superheroes, you'll know that Clark Kent is actually Superman's real name. So this is the incorrect answer. So now we've got underneath define load answer 1, add Clark Kent to answer 1. Now I'm going to drag out another add thing. I'm going to make sure it goes to answer 2. So we've got add thing to answer 2. And there's actually 2 possible answers for this. We could say Miles Morales or we could say Peter Parker. And I don't mind, I like them both. So I'm going to say Miles Morales. I think that's how it's spelt. I might be wrong. I'll have to check that later. So we've now got add Miles Morales to answer 2 underneath define load answer 2. Now look underneath define load real answers. What is the real answer to this question? Is it 1 or is it 2? And we know it's 2. So we're going to add thing to real answers, and we're just going to say 2. Add 2 to real answers. So now what you can see is we've got these 4 columns, which are going to, and together we have this whole, the question, the answer 1, answer 2, and real answers form a row. Now this is how a table works. In coding, you'd normally have a table when you want rows and columns of information. It's like, and so to do it in Scratch, because Scratch doesn't have tables, we're just using a bunch of lists all together. But this makes sense, right? We've got our complete, all of our information in the same row. And so now, if we hit the green go button, you might also get a your starting music that we programmed last time. But now we've got in all of our lists now have one item in them. There's a little one next to them. We've got our question, we've got our possible answer here, a possible answer there, and what the real answer is here. Now here's a problem. So if I hit green flag again, it adds them again. So it will keep adding and it will remember from the last game all of your previous questions, which means you'll end up with all these duplicate questions. Now we don't want that to happen. So what we need to do is at the beginning of the game, delete everything that was in that list from before, from the last game, and start fresh. So there's a nice easy way of doing that in Scratch. So what you need to do is look on the left side of the screen and look for delete all of answer 1. Drag that out and put one right underneath define load questions and click that white triangle to make sure that we are deleting all of questions. Then drag out another delete all of answer 1 to go underneath load answer 1, and then drag out delete all of answer 2 to go underneath define load answer 2, and then drag out delete all of load real answers. Delete all of real answers, sorry. So now when we hit the green flag, and it doesn't matter how many times we click it, we've got just our one question, two possible answers, and real answer. And it's all there in each list next to a little 1, because it's the one item. So let's add a few more. Now, what's important is you can ask whatever questions you like. You can make your quiz about things that you like and things that you know about. I'm just going to put in some random things here. So I'm going to have a question that says, who is Sans' brother in Undertale? I don't know if you like Undertale, but I do. I really like that game. Now, we need to make sure that this new question is being added to the questions list. So you need to make sure that that is there. And in fact, an easy way of making sure that you don't mess that up is by just going to this add Clark Kent here, right click, duplicate, and now you've got it, it's got answer 1 here. So I'm going to make the first answer Papyrus, which is the correct answer if you know Undertale. And this other one here, I'm going to right click on the add Miles Morales, duplicate, and put another one underneath. I'm going to add in an incorrect answer. I'm going to say Floey. Spoiler alert, Floey's a bit of a villain. But it's add Floey to answer 2. Make sure that these are correct, where it says where you're adding the thing to, which list you are adding it to. I'm going to duplicate, and the correct answer is 1. It's going to be answer 1, Papyrus. Okay, and we're going to add one more, just so we've got 3. And let's make it a Minecraft question. What is the strongest pickaxe in Minecraft? Gonna make sure I've got enough space here. And we'll say gold, which is not correct, as answer 1, and we'll say diamond as answer 2. And the real answer is answer 2. Is 2. Okay, so we've got ourselves 3 different questions. Now at this point you can pause the video and you can add a bunch more questions. Make sure that they're in the correct order. Make sure that they're in these nice rows where they're all lined up. So this is why I've left myself a lot of space underneath so I can add a bunch more questions in. And make sure that in their columns that they all are going to the right list. They're all going to questions or answer 1 or answer 2 or real answers. Okay, once you've done that, then we're going to put in a bit of code whereby the game show host is going to ask these questions. Okay, so let's go down away from all of our question lists and let's put in, let's go to My Blocks. Let's click on Make a Block and let's call this block Ask New Question. So now you should have a little define Ask New Question, and everything that goes into here is going to be in this little Ask New Question block here. Now the reason I make things inside my blocks, which are called functions when you're talking about programming and coding, is so that you know what these things do, so that you can see this is the code to ask a new question. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to looks, we're going to get out switch costume to talking to, just so it looks like the game show host is opening their mouth. So this is not super important. You can leave it out if you want. And now what we're going to do is we're going to need to pick a question at random and keep track of which question we are asking. So if you have a look at our project here, each question has a number next to it. What is Spider-Man's real name is next to number 1, so the answers for those questions and the real answer are all next to number 1. The same is true of the other questions. So we're going to use a number to keep track of which question we are currently asking. So we're going to go to variables, the orange category. We're going to click on the top left corner, make a variable. I'm going to call this variable current question. Now the reason that we need a variable to keep track of this will be obvious when we get to the Pico and Nano code. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get out set current question to, and now we need to, and now what we're going to do is we're going to choose a random question so that the questions will always come out in this random order. So let's go to operators. And let's go the green category on the left, and let's pick out, and let's get pick random 1 to 10. Now, how many questions do we have? We only have 3 questions, so we're going to set it to pick random 1 to 3. But here's a problem. What if you add more questions? Are you going to have to go into your code every single time and change this number? That sounds like a lot of work. Let's be lazy and let's make the code do that work for us. So we're going to go to variables, the orange category. So we know that we always are going to be choosing a random number between 1 and however many questions we have, right? Now, how do we get the code to figure out how many questions that we have? Nice and easy. Our lists will have a certain number of items in them. They've got 3 right now for me. They might have more for you. So if you look on the left side, you'll find length of answer 1. Drag that out, length of answer 1, and put it over that second number in our pick random. So it shouldn't matter which list you're using, because all your lists should have the same number of things in them. And you can see in the bottom of the lists here, they give you the length. The length is 3. Makes sense. There are 3 items in the list, right? So this is a nice, easy way of never having to change this code again. And you can keep adding more and more questions to your code, and it will adapt to that. So now we need to make the game show host actually say the question. So we're going to go to looks, the purple category, and we're going to look for the say hello. Don't get the say hello for 2 seconds, because someone might want to think about the question for a while. So get out say hello. Now what we need to do is we need to get them to say one of these questions here. So let's go to variables, the orange category, and look for where it says item 1 of answer 1. Drag that out. Now it's a nice rounded sort of shape, so it will actually go straight over this hello. So you can see where it says say item 1 of answer 1. Now the game show host is going to be saying the questions. So click on that white triangle and change it to questions. Now here's the thing, item 1 of questions, that is, what is Spider-Man's real name? But we want it to change to whatever question we're asking right now. So if you look up for current question in the variables section of the codes on the left, drag out current question, you can put it over that 1. So this number will change and your game show host will be able to ask the right question, the question it's meant to be asking. All right, and so now we need Pico and Nano to be giving possible answers. We need to send a message to them somehow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to events and we're going to get out broadcast message 1, put that on the bottom, click that white triangle, click on new message and name this display possible answers. This is going to get Pico and Nano to both give their answers to the question. Then the player is going to have to choose between them. So broadcast display possible answers. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Pico and Nano. So the other thing, just before we do this, if you go to variables and look for our make a list button, underneath it you'll see our 4 lists, answer 1, answer 2, questions and real answers, and there are little ticks next to them. If you untick them, we can see our game. Our game comes back to us. For now, make sure that you've got this current question variable somewhere you can see it. But now you can see we've got Nano here on the left for me and Pico on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rename Nano answer 1. So to rename the sprite, it's just here where I'm wiggling my mouse on the right side of the screen, and I'm going to rename Pico as answer 2. So I know which one is going to say which. So now we're going to get out, we're going to go to events, the yellow category, and we're going to get when I receive display possible answers. Get that out, and underneath that we're going to go to looks, we're going to get our say hello, we're going to go to variables, we're going to look for item 1 of answer 1. So this is exactly the same thing that we just did with the game show host, but we're going to make the answer 1 sprite say answer 1, but we need to make sure that we get our current question variable and put it over that 1. So it's going to say item whatever of answer 1. Then we're going to get this whole bit of code, click that and drag it over and drop it on your other sprite, your answer 2 sprite. That will drop the code in there, and then all you need to do is click on this white triangle and change it to say item current question of answer 2. So now if you hit the green flag, what happens is the game show host will start talking, and if we put in a simple bit of code that makes this define ask new question code happen, so if you get a little ask new question here, and for now we'll just get out a when space key pressed. Now every time you press the space key, can you see this current question variable has gone to a random number between 1 and 3? It's gone to 2. And the host has asked the question, who is Santa's brother in Undertale? And you've got answer 1 said Papyrus, and answer 2 says Flowey. And if I hit spacebar again, it comes up with another random question. We've got what is Spider-Man's real name? And we've got Clark Kent, Miles Morales. And I can just keep doing this. And because it's random each time, sometimes I do get the same question twice in a row. Like just then, it went to current question 1 twice in a row. Like there again. And we're going to find a way to fix that. But for now, our questions are coming through correctly. We don't have a way of choosing which one we think is correct just yet. But that's something that we're going to cover next week. So as always, if you've got any problems, let me know in the comments. If you're having any difficulty, we can fix it together. If you've got any suggestions or requests for future streams, again, let me know. You can subscribe and ring the bell and do all that normal YouTube stuff if you want to see the next episode of this. But until then, stay awesome, be cool to each other, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, ninjas.